Почему все-таки весь наш мир
Why
устроен
our
вокруг
world, our
денег?
entire world is
Все
arranged around
ищут
money?
цель
The
достижения
ultimate
прибыли.
the
Чтобы деньги
ultimate goal is to
приносило
make money. What's the
золото,
money and all that,
серебро.
and gold and
Нет, ну не
silver
всегда. Не всегда это было.
no, no, it wasn't always like
Есть,
that.
кроме того, еще
Besides that,
власть,
there's
слава,
power,
знания,
fame, knowledge.
есть
There is
мир существовал не только
world
ради денег.
existed not only for the sake of
Деньги это
money.
просто средство.
The money was
В
only
наше время мы
means.
сами уже
Only in our
сами по
time it
себе.
has become
А когда-то было
on its own. And
товарный
in the
товар,
past, it was good for money for good.
обмен на деньги,
And
коммуникация,
the money was
общение.
means
То есть мне
of
было ясно,
communication, equivalent.
мне надо,
I need, let's say,
скажем,
a
туфли,
pair of shoes,
а тебе нужен
and you
костюм.
need a suit.
Как мы можем
How can we
обменяться?
exchange?
Сколько стоит туфли, сколько стоит
What's the
костюм. Мы
cost
не
of
знаем, как мы
shoes and
можем
what's the cost
сделать это
of the
барter.
suit? How can we do this barter?
Поэтому
Therefore,
все это
there was all that came down to the money equivalent. Let's say for two pairs of shoes, not necessarily this kind or that kind, but maybe two and a half, maybe five, I can get one suit from you. Meaning the good was the main thing. I need your good, you need my good, and the money was in between, like a equivalent. When we were doing the equation, when your good is equal to a certain number of equivalent, or and the money wasn't always the main thing. Or let's say I'm interested in becoming a governor of some sort or a leader. What's the cost? What's the price tag on it? So I pay for it. I know that a certain position costs so and so much. Not the other way around. Money was just a means to come to your goal, and only now, in our time, it became money for good for money. When the money is the main thing, when you invest them to get even more money. Why? Why? Because the money has become the power on its own, the goal on its own. It became our master. That's what's happening today in the past in the last 60, 70 years. And that's not the right form. That's the final goal, as such. And Karl Marx wrote about it. My dear, here you can't do anything. It's all dialectics. Listening. But the gold is the same. It's a common equivalent. Give a different equivalent, it's going to be a different equivalent. The gold was taken away from money. You see what happened. They began to speculate. They began to print. You cannot print gold, but paper you can. So they put the mine under themselves, which can explode any moment. And now we get this result. And it's inevitable because the ego is not possible to daunt. You can only rise above it. And if you exist in it, it's going to develop to the level when you simply mortify yourself and will do it with pleasure. But why exactly the money has been always such an important means among Jews? Throughout centuries, they worked with jewelry. And where wasn't it like that? In all ancient cultures. In all ancient cultures. What? In archaeological excavations you find something else? In Romans, Greeks, Egyptians, Persians, anywhere else you find anything besides gold? And in Jews, because they've been always they always dealt for a long time with all operations, the currencies exchange, because they existed in all countries. They could be connected with others, with each other, the same language, mentality. They could communicate with each other. So they turned even back then the trade into a global integrated business. And of course, the gold is small, mobile, convenient for exchange, for everything. And then they started stamping golden coins, and government began to stamp them. And then they changed it to all kinds of other metals, as long as it has a government stamp on it. And it was the same thing. You shouldn't have denied the golden standard. It's the ego is not okay with any boundaries. So they cut those coins. They cut the corners of the coins, and so they started to deal with not the golden equivalent. And in Jews, by the way, it wasn't for the sake of collecting or accumulating it. What a little what was valuable as the candle holders or silverware made of silver, something that was related to spiritual cult, religious cults. And gold was for those who dealt with trade and international trade. And if I went to you, let's say, to a third country or to somewhere else, what could I take with me? What kind of currency? You take the golden equivalent. There was nothing else besides that. And you go. But here we talk even more about the spiritual roots of gold and silver. Why? Nothing like that. There's nothing like what's spiritual in gold or silver. The one is light of Chokmah, and that one is light Hasadim. What's in there? Nothing. The root of gold is simple. It represents the force, the power, egoistic power. The silver is much lesser. Therefore, silver cleanses, and gold doesn't. It doesn't react with anything. It's that metal. And diamonds. Why is that's because they were valuable among the leaders, the governors. That's why it was valuable. If I'm in some kind of country and I don't know what's going to happen to me the next moment where I'm going to be thrown out, of course, naturally, if I have any possession or anything, I try to turn it into such form which I can easily take with me, hide and take with me. Try to live 2,000 years in such state when you're thrown out from one country to another. Let's try to have this experiment, what you're going to become like. And besides, you're going to justify yourself in front of others why you are like that, in front of those who are prosecuting you. But I asked more from the point of why such thing exists, the gold and silver and diamonds. It has to exist. There has to be some kind of equivalent of human effort. It has to exist. I need to know how much I make. It's always been evaluated, or for how many camels or sheeps or cows. I need to know for a certain number of beauties for sale, beautiful women or acres of land, or how else? How can I measure? It's the equivalent of my effort. And when a person was taken away from his land, personal, and he needed the exchange in blacksmith and tailor, there was an need for exchange, and we needed the equivalent. Or what? We will change everything for shoes, 25 shoes, 30 shoes, the same equivalent. But in our time, you can easily paint everything in gold, and even it looks cheap, but people still strive toward this shiny thing. Any paint can fake the gold today, and why is there such a passion toward it, toward the gold.
Конечно, это
Of course, this color,
сейчас не можем к нему относиться.
we cannot relate to it carelessly because throughout the years, centuries,
Он являлся
it has been the most valuable color.
Если обратишься к ребенку,
If you show a child and to allow him to play with different colors, he's also going to be striving to a warm colors, not to silver but to gold, because it's a warm color.
ну,
Well,
я не представляю, что
I can't imagine what else.
я не знаю,
You see, I don't look at it like that.
не знаю.
I don't know.
Не вижу в этом,
I don't see in it for a long time.
не чувствую в этом.
I don't
какой-то-
feel in it any value.
Что?
What?
Просто такой идиотизм.
But it's such a idiotic thing. The whole world spins around somehow. Kind of.
Весь мир должен прийти.
Well, the entire world has to come to realization of the evil of their ego, because they work for it for free. The ego sits inside of each person like a serpent, like a cancer, which eats him up.
Человек должен это осознать.
And a person has to realize it, has to battle with it,
Раковыми заболеваниями
with this cancerous disease
своими.
of his.
Ощутить его в себе как
He has to perceive it as the most evil, the most artful enemy,
всё снаружи.
and that there is nothing outside, everything is inside.